the end?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let
Yeah.
me actually go to the office then.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. Now I'm gonna introduce right now. So no problem.
Fantastic.
Okay. Welcome everybody to FMA discussion. This is episode 36, and tonight we have featuring Sean Sutton. Sean Sutton is a rep of Burton Richardson. Sean runs a school out of Ohio, and actually official school under JKDU Unlimited. So good things tonight about that. We're going to be talking about Burton's program, specifically his FMA programs and all that, and what Sean's done and what I've done, and we'll have some fun with it. And Sean's also going to show us a few demos and all that. So good things, a little show and tell. So thank you for coming on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, my pleasure. So I know we talked a little about it the day we did a test run. So, but you guys are open, but with somewhat limited capacity, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of the drills we're doing are solo drills, like coordination drills or like working out drills, that type of thing. And where there is partnering, you are limited to one partner, preferably someone in your house. And you stay with that partner the whole time, and you're in a designated area that has 6 feet of clearance on each side. That way, you never commingle with other groups.
Mm. So then, and this actually, you guys been over for it's been a few weeks now, right? You guys were one of the first to kind of do that. Okay. So what? I guess before we jump into things, what is the next, I guess, so to speak, step for you guys? That as far as school, anything I guess falls under gym or health club or martial art umbrella.
Yeah, so we're in phase one right now. And during phase one, we do pretty much what we're doing right now. And then in phase two, we can do full partnering, like contact sports. You can do like wrestling. So uh, they are expecting that to be soon. I mean, water parks and amusement parks are now open in Ohio.
Mm.
Uh, and actually, here there was like a 1 day spike, but other than that, we haven't had a spike because our governor was one of the first to react and one of the first to shut down. So I think because we
Oh,
were
I
one of the
didn't.
first of that, you'll
Oh, I
see a
didn't
little
realize
increase.
that. Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, that makes sense, right? He was proactive, kind of jumped on things, and then therefore you guys are one of the first to. Well, good on him.
Mhm.
Wow, that's good. So all right, well, so then I mean, so you had wow, because this is I just want to make a distinction just for people who are watching. There are again, for those who didn't see the opening, Sean Sutton is a rep under Bert Richardson. However, the difference between me and I'm a rep, I don't have an official school that flies under the umbrella and the flag of Bert, what Sean does. So, and that's pretty unique. I teach modules, but again, I don't have the full encompassing thing. Anything that comes down the pipeline, Sean is enabled to teach. That's not the case for me. So it's kind of beneficial if you have a place to kind of do what Sean's doing. We're gonna get into that a little more as we get into this and all that. Um, just so for the folks, before we jump into the FMA aspect, what is your, I guess, your initial background in martial arts?
So the first martial art that I ever did was wrestling. I was like
That's,
six.
what, you're the first one because everybody comes back, well, it was Taekwondo, but some type of traditional. So that's, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Wow.
Yeah, wrestling was my first one. I wasn't very good because I was very young. But yeah, I started doing wrestling. And then I did do Taekwondo for quite a few years, of course. And
That was gonna come somewhere.
yeah, and then I did karate for a little bit, and I actually did Shaolin Kung Fu for a little bit. And then ultimately ended up doing JKD. I did it at the Reed Academy, which is a school here. It's a Dan Inosanto's lineage, so instructors under Guro Inosanto, and I trained here for many years. I think 4.5 years before
And
I
this
joined the military.
Ohio, correct?
In Ohio, yes, that's right.
Oh wow. Okay. So, and this is just again, not that more like what year about there?
I think I started at the Reed Academy at 2005, I think.
2005. So, all right, okay. So, and then, wow, okay, that's and you're, I mean, you were kind of, were you young? I mean, you were kind of younger then, right? I mean, obviously, like
Yeah,
2005.
yeah, I think I was 20.
That wow, because that's, I mean,
19.
that's impressive. 20 years old to be kind of that you were, being exposed to, that stuff. So, is that fair to say that was probably your first FMA experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I even remember the first drill we did. I have like people make fun of me actually for it. I have like a really intense recall, so I can remember things
Oh, that's
really
oh,
vividly.
good on you. I think that's good.
I I remember the drill and I remember who it was. And actually, funny enough, the guy who was my partner, his name is Bob Rust, and now he's an instructor with me at my school. Also a battlefield collie instructor.
No kidding.
Uh,
So here, your first training partner, who ultimately now is at your school. Wow,
yeah,
how
isn't
neat.
that funny?
So what was it? I'm just curious. What was it? So obviously, if that's a school, you obviously were doing the Inosanto Blend. I'm assuming, correct?
That's right. And the first drill we
Yeah.
did was Heaven 6, and I was just terrible at it. I just could not figure out how to move my arms. It was so uncoordinated. But yeah, it was Heaven 6. I eventually got it and then never stopped. So
Yeah, coordination. Yeah. Incidentally, my first exposure was, as a lot of people, Inosanto Blend. Yeah. Um, and then so then you did that. So now you mentioned 4 years thereabouts.
yeah, I think it was 4 years. It was a while. I mean, that's a long time ago. So
Yeah, but I mean, so you
uh,
had. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that you had a solid 4 years of like the Inosanto Blend. I mean, that's so obviously you had a pretty good idea what they were about, what they're doing, and what have you, and all that. Was you most of your stuff you were doing stick at the time, or just,
it was almost all stick. Yeah. They did some like Espada Daga, like a but most, I would say, and this is just in our classes. At the Reed Academy did
mm,
everything, but in the specific classes that I went to, I was mostly doing stick stuff.
yeah, stick stuff, yeah, yeah. It seems no, that's about. When I look back, reflective, yeah, it was predominantly mostly stick for myself as well. Yeah. Um, so then I know at some point, I guess from your first experience, before we get into why and you meet Bert and what have you, like what, obviously you coming from traditional wrestling, and then you're, obviously traditional, you're doing a lot of kicking in Taekwondo and what have you. Like what stood
Yeah.
out from your first experience from FMA? Like, what, I mean, what was your first, like, what were you like? Wow, wow, what is this stuff?
So my idea in going into martial arts wasn't necessarily like to be the look, one of the things that took me away from wrestling and into like the traditional martial arts is because I really was thinking about self-defense. Like I think about self-defense a lot, and just like what I would call like real combat, like a person's trying
Mm,
to kill me and I have to defend myself. Um, so when someone put a stick in my hand and said, "Okay, now we're going to learn how to fight with a stick," I'm like, "Yeah, that makes total sense."
yeah,
What they have a stick, and I better get
yeah,
it
yeah,
too.
sure.
So I was kind of enamored with it, and I'm one of those people. If something's hard, I like can't stop doing it. And like I said,
Mm.
Heaven 6 was very difficult for me, and that's like one of the most basic Sinawali drills. So as I kept going into it, and things would be more complicated, I was just hooked.
Oh, fantastic. So, I mean, no, that's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, I had some difficulty way back with the drills, but, the words is so suitable. Like when you said enamored, and that was it because, in addition to being exposed to Ensemble, the guy also taught Kung Tao, Ron Kozakowski here in Connecticut. He sells the TFW weapons. Um, so
Oh yeah,
he showed like, yeah, and he showed sticky knife, and I've been hooked ever since then on knife. It just was like, yeah, it was just one of those things. But yeah, the choice of words you used was, I thought, extremely appropriate. Enamored. I just want to we got some people here. Manny, hey Manny,
hey Manny.
Scott Ishihara, hey Scott, Andres, hey, and you Woo Do. That's his screen name.
Oh, voodoo. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know
Voodoo.
Sean.
I'm sorry. Voodoo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
My man, probably Sean.
Great
I was gonna
friend of
say.
mine.
I was like, okay. I hope you know. Okay. All right. So yeah. So then, I know you mentioned 4 years. Was there, and then obviously you make it to Hawaii via the service, I'm assuming?
Yeah, yeah. I should mention, in that time, uh, that I was
Okay.
training at the Reed Academy, I also was in a Dog Brothers training group with a couple of close friends, and we would do that, like outside of the gym. We would do Dog Brothers as well. So
Oh, fantastic.
so I knew who Burton Richardson was before I went to Hawaii.
So
Lucky dog.
the group that you mentioned was there somebody at the school that was affiliated with them or like an actual dog brother?
Not an he was not a dog brother. I'm not gonna put him on blast or anything, but he was a good friend of mine, and he had a training group. He had an authorized training group. So you can do a training group, and then you have dog brother elect, and then you have like a full dog brother.
Yeah, right. You get tagged. You get, yeah, because I trained with Mark Denny for a bit there, and I
Oh,
just
really?
remember, yeah. But wow, I mean, no, that's awesome. So I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's so how long would did this go about where you were actually you and the group were training?
Oh, I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, just
Uh,
no, I mean,
Quite a bit of
but
time, like a year maybe more.
yeah, that's fine. Like, so did he take you through like all the ranges? Like, I mean, like
We
from
did sparring. We did a lot of those drills, and we would do, you know, single stick stuff like that. Yeah.
wow, wow, yeah. I mean, there was some good stuff. I enjoyed the time I spent with Mark. It was some good stuff, and all that. But wow,
Oh,
that's
just
neat.
let me know when. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. Yes, Manny. I hope you're doing well. Again, the moment you say it's a go, we're to get you on here. Um,
Yeah, you should get Manny on there.
yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, I told him at 100%. I basically the way I left it with him is the moment he gives me the green light and he's on. So
Awesome.
actually, I want to get a few more of the Battlefield Collie guys. I was thinking maybe actually Scott, Jay as well. Maybe actually do it like a Hawaii, get them both on.
Oh yeah.
Do like a Hawaii package.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, man. You're getting better. Fantastic. All right, so thank you. Wow, I'm glad you brought that because I would have had no idea about your exposure to Dog Brothers. That was fantastic. So okay, so I guess you were going to Hawaii, or was that on purpose, or did you just happen to get stationed there? Or
No, it was on purpose.
yeah.
So I joined the Marine Corps. I had gotten laid off from my job, so at first I was trying to be a police officer for a little bit there, and then I don't know what prompted it. My friend was in the Marine Corps. I visited him on base, and I'm not sure what prompted it, but I just decided, I'm going to join the military. So I joined the Marine Corps, went to boot camp, did the whole thing, and I went to my job school. And at my job school, a certain if you do a certain amount of people at the top, and I forget what that was, but a certain amount of people at the top of the highest grades get to choose where they were going to go, and the choices were San Diego, uh, Jacksonville, North Carolina, and Hawaii, Kaneohe, Hawaii. And so I knew where I was going, and I knew that, of course, there's a lot of JKD schools in California as well, but I couldn't pass up on going to Hawaii, of course.
That yeah, I know. I would have been like, that's number one. That's not, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
worked
That would have
hard,
been
and I got to choose. So yeah, it was on purpose.
no fantastic. So now, and now, did you? I know you picked it obviously just being Hawaii and everything else, but did you have the association then that Burton was there or no?
Yeah, I knew immediately. When I got there, it took me like a month and a half, I think, because I had to. So I was married at the time, so I had to
Yep.
establish my house, and we were staying in the TLF, which is a temporary lodging facility on
Mm.
base. So I was getting that set up, but literally the day I knew where I was going to move, like where I was going to live, I was staying with a friend, and I called, and Sarah picked up the phone, and yeah, unfortunately, I only got to train that first stint for about 7 months, 6 or 7 months at Burton School.
Okay.
And then I got deployed, but then I came back once I came back.
Okay. So, all right. So, all right. That's now. This is again. So 4 years. So, like mid 2000s or so, or
So I was in for 5 years. So I started at the Reed Academy in 2005, and I think the first class at Burton School was in January 2010.
oh, okay. All right. And so you're going there, and then now, did you just go there to take all of his classes? I mean, because I mean, they're Tuesdays and Thursdays. Was it that way back then as well?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So it was Tuesday and Thursday, and I would go for Battlefield Collie, and then I would stay for the first JKD class, and then eventually I would do the Battlefield Collie class, and then I would stay in between, and we would do sparring in between the first JKD class, and I would go to the intermediate class, so we'd spar
Mm.
for like, I don't know, an hour.
Oh, okay. So when you're just gonna just check my questions here. Uh, when you first again, and you might have known this right from the get go. With me, somebody actually was. You always knew about Burton, but somebody was telling me, hey, you might want to check out. He's coming with these individual modules, and then that's when I started looking and all that. And did you know that he had modules like that? Number one, part one, and part two. Did you know about his message of functionality and all that?
I knew about the functionality. So I'm a researcher. So once I knew I was going to Hawaii, I was looking up the school. So I knew the message of functional training, and of course I was in that Dog Brothers group. So that was my mindset anyway. And I had already been doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, so like
Mm,
that functional training was already forefront in my mind. Um, And the modules thing, I didn't know. I actually trained with him for a little bit before I even knew that there were modules uh, at all. I think in 2010, the first time, I think he was filming the MMA for the Streeter. He had just filmed MMA.
yeah, matter of fact, when you mentioned that date, and somebody on here might know better than me, absolutely, because you guys are all been with him far longer than myself.
There's
But
a
I
lot of
think
people
the
in the chat room
stick,
that are longer than me.
yeah, I yeah, like obviously Scott, yeah, but
Oh
I
yeah.
think the stick was his first FMA module. And I think if I recall correctly, he mentioned that came out in like '09 or something. So he might not have that many out. I think Knife was the next one.
Mhm.
Like I know for a fact Sword wasn't out. Yeah, I know MMA for Street. I'm gonna guess. Maybe hopefully somebody will chime in like Scott or even maybe Manny knows. But I know Stick, I think, was on or around that time 2009. I know Knife, I think, fouled,
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
So
he
you
followed
might, so in your defense, you might not have, like got to see the whole umbrella. Oh, Scott just chimed in. Yeah. So single stick, then the knife. Yeah. So you might not have, yeah.
he was in the
But
videos, if I recall.
yeah. So, so then what do you, okay. So just for the viewers, I mean, obviously me and you know it and all that, but for the viewers, what can you tell us in them, like his message, about functionality, like, anything that comes to mind, again, just for the viewers who they know Burton, but they might not really associate, his message, like what he's really trying to push in the community.
Yeah. So um, Really, I think the best way to describe it is the 3 methodologies of training, and this is directly from the Battlefield College Stick program, and it's repeated again in the knife program. The 3 methodologies would be technical precision, power generation, and fighting proficiency. So technical precision, every martial artist knows this. This is where you're doing the technique and you're trying to learn the different body positions and doing that technique in the most efficient way possible. And you do that through drills and, things like that. There's a little bit more to that, but I'm just going to move on just for the sake of the story here.
Sure.
The second one would be power generation, and that is hitting something really hard. What's the most effective way to hit something very hard and generate a lot of force, right? And the third one is fighting proficiency. And fighting proficiency is really, for me, where that functional training aspect comes in, because that talks about sparring and relating to an opponent who's actually fighting you back. So I think knowing those 3 methodologies and knowing that's what all of these programs are about in equal parts, right? And then to go back to that technical precision, also technical precision is not only just knowing the technique, but being able to do it against someone who's progressively fighting you back, progressive resistance. So they keep adding the resistance to see how that technique changes once it's put under pressure, and then you put it into sparring.
No, that was well put. No, that's so true. Like, yeah. But still, though, just to be able to recite that and all that. If somebody put me on the spot, I'd be like, well, sparring.
Sparring is the best answer, I think.
My answer would have been I can tell you right now, would have been as thorough as yours. So that was excellent. Yeah, I mean and again, like I just want to capitalize on what you mentioned that somebody fighting back, like, and again, I try to keep this very non-political and all that, because I'm not out here to bash any system or anybody. Matter of fact, I'm trying to collectively bring the community together and more exposure, FMA as a whole.
It's such a great
yeah, I appreciate that. So it wouldn't be serving me well if I'm over here bashing systems and all that. But at the same time, I have to be honest and all that. And unfortunately there is a lot of the drilling, but sometimes that doesn't really cross over to the fight. Unfortunately, there's like a disconnect. And I think one of the things that Burton does really well is that there's congruency. Like whatever you're doing in the drill is definitely going to somewhere come out or match or improve what you're doing in sparring. And unfortunately, some.
Yeah, when you have sparring in the class, like the sparring will happen at the end of the class or the beginning of the class, depends on how you do it. But for us, we do it at the end. Every technique that you do, you'll see it in your students as you're teaching them a technique. They want to know, how can I do better at the sparring later? The sparring is the place where I'm getting this feedback of what I'm doing. Give me something that I can bring to the game. And when it really focuses you, I really, man, the programs are set up so well to prepare you for sparring, which ultimately is going to prepare you for a fight.
No, I know.
It's not a fight, but it will prepare you for a fight.
Matter of fact, we're going to get to that because one of my questions is kind of just on the organizational structure, which is it's beyond Oh, we just got some more people here because I always like just to acknowledge whoever comes on and takes the time. Audie, thank you for jumping in. Jarlo, thank you. Audie, I don't hit it, hits all by itself. Bruce Lee, right on. And our chief, Burton, Sean Sutton, is a great representative of Battlefield College and JKDU. Absolutely. Yeah, that was nice of him, huh? So then, all right. So just again, I thought that was well put on your answer as far as the functional aspect of him and all that. What about you? So currently speaking, up to current date, I should say, what modules have you within just regards to FMA? If you want to throw CELA in there, that's fine too. What modules have you done or currently doing under him?
So I have the rank of Guru Isa in Battlefield Kali stick, Battlefield Kali knife, and I am level 4 in Battlefield Kali sword. I actually have completed all the sparring rounds because that's another thing. I'm sure we'll get to that. To go to the next level, you have to complete a certain amount of rounds of sparring, of actually testing the technique with resistance. I've actually completed all my sparring rounds for the instructor test in sword, and I should take it soon. Before I take a test like that, I really want to make sure that I really want to make sure that I am doing everything to my best ability. So that's the only reason I haven't taken the test yet.
Really. Yeah. No, I think, you know what? I think there's a good. Let's let's dive into that.
Okay.
And you can pick any module you want. But you kind of touched on something I think it'd be interesting for the viewers to hear. It's just not only the organizational package, but what it entails from you to go to level. Like, can you talk about that again, just for the viewers who maybe don't understand like what his modules are because they're separate. They're not kind of thrown under just one umbrella of FMA per se. But in that maybe may have the interest in pursuing something down the line with Bird, but by virtue of you maybe explaining that, would even get a better understanding or more interest in it.
So yeah, so like I was saying before with the 3 methodologies. So every methodology that you go through, they're featured in the test. So there's a test. There's usually about 4 to 8. There's 4 in sword, but there's 8 levels, and then there's an instructor test after 4 levels and after 8 levels. Okay. And then there's instructor levels above that, and then there's also the warrior levels as well, which is with like full redam.
Yeah.
But
yeah, after level 4, the stick or something. Yeah.
Yes, I've done
Or
quite a
something
bit
like
of
that.
cane
Yeah.
sparring, but I don't have that rank. I've never pursued that, or at least not yet. But specifically, what's important to understand is what you're doing and to qualify to take the test is you're doing a certain amount of sparring rounds. So it's time under resistance, if you think about it like that, right? If you lift weights or whatever, which I do. But it's like time under resistance, like how long am I under this resistance? And then it's in specific ranges. Like, for example, level 1 emphasizes hand only sparring, which is great for FMA because hitting to the hand is so effective and it should be the #1 disarm. But so often, we're just like, you can hit to the hand, but then we'll do this, 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 and this. Well, when we focus on that level 1, we're actually just trying to hit your hand for, I think it's 50
Yeah,
rounds.
right.
50 rounds, I'm just trying to hit your hand and not get my hand hit, and I'm practicing that. I could hit you in the hand, but no, I'm going to put that under pressure for, 50 2-minute or 1-minute rounds, whatever it is. I don't have the sparring lessons, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So pretty much that's it. So the technical precision part where you're doing those techniques, what you're doing is you're informing your ability for the fighting proficiency part of your training. And then power generation is also in every test. So you do the sparring rounds, like you teach a technique, you like explain a technique, or like the stance, for example, for level 1, you explain the principles of the stance, and then you show the techniques in actual sparring, which are in a specific range or in a specific target or whatever it is. And then you do power generation, and it's a specific drill for power generation. So you're hitting the pad as hard as you can with a rattan stick. So.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like you were saying, just a compound off what you were, what you were mentioning was that, like, like level 1. I mean, the one things that I'm sure he's mentioned to you or said to you is that yeah, I mean, if you generally put those rounds in and you are actually doing it, and you got some decent guys and all that, like the only way you're gonna direction is you're gonna go up. I mean, everything is just gonna get more acute. Your timing, your distance, your range, your tracking, and all that, because you're actually putting these rounds in and all that, and I don't know. It's a solid method. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? What he came up with, I don't know. It's solid, but not so, difficult. It's like, and well, his organization, like, when I look what he's done like that, I'm trying to think, like, if I could have, came up with something like that, and I don't know. It's pretty well done, I just, it's almost like, if you legitimately put the work in, like the effort, and like you really, really do it, and all your T's are crossed, all your I's are dotted, it's like pretty hard to fail. I'm like, if you really, really applied yourself and like you know what I mean? It's like, even if you're like just like zero, like you had zero experience in doing it, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be pretty hard to fail. Like if you really, follow it, it's, my opinion anyhow,
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. Overall, I mean, what can you just, you kind of mentioned overall, like, what you like about them, all that. What is, from just personally, just from you, like what, yeah, man, a lot of research and dedication, 100%, you know. What is your favorite? Like if you had to pick one of his FMA modules, like is there one that like stood out to you that really resonated with you, that you enjoyed more than others per se?
Man, you're putting me on the spot. Oh, I should also mention I'm also
Wait, you know what? I think, yeah, Bird's gone. It's okay, Sean. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, in that case, I should have mentioned I also am a CLAT instructor as well. You told me.
Okay. Oh, so you did the 1 through 4 there? Okay.
Yeah, I've done 1 through 4. So I'm Guru Isa and CLAT, but that's an Indonesian martial art, not necessarily under the FMA umbrella, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll throw it in there.
Yeah, might as well.
They have it in Mindanao. You know what?
I would say I don't want to say what my favorite module is because it's different tools for different jobs in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what is super unique and that I really like about the sword program. He has a thing in the sword program which you go from the bind. So swords, for anyone who doesn't know, who isn't.
Oh my God! I'm so happy you're covering this.
Yeah, they have like the sharpness has these tiny little teeth. Like if you put it under a microscope, there's tiny little teeth. And when you hit swords together, they bind up and, they'll drag. And sometimes they're pretty easy to pull apart, but sometimes they'll really get bound up. So what Burton, this is so genius. He has you start from this bound position. So you're really close. And at first, I'll tell you what that drill is. You're just both going to get hit a bunch. And, even now, when I do the thing, you're just going to hit more often than normal. But you go from that bind, and then there's the different reactions. So, if they push forward, you can redirect. If they pull away, you can expand. That Bruce Lee adage, when my opponent expands, I contract. When he contracts, I expand. Just like that. And that's really what he's talking about. When they go down, because when you have the swords together, if you turn them, you can unlock them like that, right? Yeah. You actually see that in some of the older, like more traditional ways that people are doing their techniques. You see them hit and then turn the blade, but you have this intrinsic idea of why that is because you're doing it in sparring. I'm here, right. And then they come down, I got to move my leg. I love that drill. It's so fun. It is very hard on your ego, but it is a fun drill.
You know what? I interviewed him some weeks back. I want to say maybe a little over a month, and I went over that, not so much from the premise of his sword program, but I went more over in regards to the check in hand. Yeah. Because he mentioned something in section 3 that was so profound to me, and something I had thought, but I just never mentioned, just, maybe confidence, or just didn't want to get into a bunch of arguments with people on here, is that trying to do the check in hand with stick when it's going by 100 miles an hour. You know what I mean? But with a sword, when you get the bind, there's a place for you to get that hand in there. And my guess is back in the day, the person that did probably went home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know that, and he went on to more stuff like and all that, like how they remove it when you in sobriety when you really shouldn't. You know what I mean? And all that with sword, and all that. But I agree with you. I thought that drill, there's just something. It's so unique, and like you said, when they're pushing, what I mean, like you have to kind of give way. It's kind of like obviously sensitivity aspect to it and all that. Matter of fact, because I'm like doing so many stuff with him, I got to level 3, which I want to finish and all that. I kind of, be honest, kind of bit off a little more I can chew, so to speak. But I definitely want to get back to that.
Right?
That his knife for the street, Lamego. I just yeah, it's my own fault. It's just like sure, sign me up.
Yeah, you and me both.
And me emotion, yeah. But lesson learned. But now I'm getting I got a better hold of everything now. So, but yeah, I'm totally with you. I just thought that was just so uniquely done and so innovative, like that you're actually starting out like that. I thought that was so clever. You know what I mean?
So
And yeah.
It's indicative of a person who actually is thinking about fighting with a sword. He's not thinking about moving. This isn't an accusation for anyone else, but he's not thinking about how am I going to move my hand around or how is this going to look. He's thinking if I'm in a sword fight and our blades hit, what's going to happen for real? What's actually going to happen? They're going to bind, and I need to. And the way he explained it in class one time, I've been using this ever since. He makes a lot of baseball references because he used to play baseball. I'm sure you
Yep.
so now I make a bunch of baseball references. I don't know anything about baseball. I just make these references. But he said when you're practicing baseball, bunts do not happen very often. I'll have to take his word for it. I don't know. But bunts don't happen very often. But you have to practice for it in practice because when the person bunts, they're going to get free bases.
Yeah.
So that bind may never happen, but you better know what to do when it does. It's so
yeah, being caught like right. I mean, like, at least know how to navigate those waters.
I think you may have frozen.